How many of you get a little nervous going to a doctor's appointment? And when you get there, suddenly you forget all of the questions that you wanted to ask or all of the symptoms that you wanted to report? Well, today I'm going to help you out with that. So stay with me. Well, hi everyone. I'm Crystal from A Crystal Clear Life, where we focus on planning, organizing, and living a more simplified life. And today I want to bring you part 2 of our creation of a medical records notebook. Now, I am somebody who plans in OneNote, and I use OneNote for all kinds of things in my life. And this summer, I have decided that I need to set up a medical notebook for myself just to record all kinds of information. In a previous video, I went ahead and showed you how and why I got started with a medical notebook, and we set up our first official page, which was a medical history page. I will leave a link to that video above if you would like to check it out. Today, our focus is going to be on creating a page for those medical or doctor's appointments that we need to go on, and we need to keep track of what happens at each appointment. If you find the creation of a medical notebook or keeping medical records in a digital format helpful, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't already, please think about subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, but it sure does help out my channel, and I would really appreciate that. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the computer, and I will show you what we're going to talk about today. As you can see here on my screen, I have created a page for myself based on medical appointment visits. All right, let's zoom in closely and we'll take a look at all the various components that I have here. So as you can see, I have broken this page down into a number of different sections, and we will go over each of those sections as we go through the page. All I did here up at the top is this is the standard OneNote page title, and all I did to that was I created a rounded corner box graphic that you can see here, and I put it over top of that title page. I just think it adds a little bit more interest and makes it stand out from the regular OneNote pages. Okay, very simple to do. So you can see here at the top of the page, I have a container that has lots and lots of different tables in that same container. Let's go through those and I'll explain each one to you. Okay? All right, so the first table that I added to this container is a 4-column table. There's a place for the date when the appointment is scheduled for, and the name of the person who is attending that particular appointment. It might be yourself, might be your spouse, family member, parent, any of those kinds of things. Okay? Then I have a section here for the healthcare visit itself. Who is the provider or the doctor for this visit? What is their location and their phone number? And then what's the reason for the visit? Is it a checkup? Is it a specialty consult? Is it a surgical follow-up? What's the reason that you're going for this medical visit? Okay. And then I have a section over here for notes about that particular visit. And I also decided to put in a place where you can record the nurse who was attending you during that particular visit. Sometimes those things were important. Sometimes, like I know when my daughter was young and we would take her to her baby wellness visits, it was always nice to have the same nurse over and over. She kind of got to know my daughter a little bit and they built a nice rapport. So that was always very helpful. So I wanted to include who the nurse for the visit might be. Then, in continuing to prepare for the visit, I also wanted to give myself a space for any symptoms that you might have. So here I've put in a 3-column table, And I have a place for the symptoms. Maybe you have pain at a certain place, or maybe you've been coughing for X number of days, or, whatever the symptoms that you're having might be. And then I also left a place over here for any questions or concerns that you might have. You might have a question about medication and whether that medication needs to change, or the levels need to change, or how it should be taken. You might have a question about something that's really unrelated to the main reason that you're going in, but while you're there, you need to have that done. For example, again, with a child, you may be going in for a wellness check, but you know that that child's going to camp during the summer, and you need to have that camp paperwork filled out by the doctor's office. So that's something else that you might just want to write down so that you don't forget it, and cause yourself to go back for an additional appointment. Okay? So just a place for those kinds of things. Then the next logical step for me was once you go to the doctor's appointment. So I created a section here where I could record information like your blood pressure. Whenever you go to the doctor, they always come in, they take your blood pressure, they take your weight, all that kind of stuff. I like to kind of keep track of that because I'm somebody that's blood pressure goes up a little bit. When I go into the doctor, I get a little bit nervous. And so I kind of like to track that. So I have a place for blood pressure, your pulse, your respiratory or your oxygen readings, what the doctor's office says your weight is. That never matches up with what your scale says at home. So I like to keep track of that to know how far off the doctor's scales really are. Sometimes they take your temperature, especially if they're thinking that there might be some infection of some sort. And then also a place for you to put your pain level. 1 being the lowest for me and 10 being the highest. Okay. I left space here to add additional things if I wanted to, so that I could also have a natural break between this information collection up here and then when the doctor actually comes in and any tests that are performed and that kind of thing. So I have a section down here for the tests that were performed. You might have an EKG run, you might have a stress test run, you might have, a reflex test, or a strength test or something like that, and when it was performed by who, any kind of details that you want to write, and then the results of those tests. Sometimes they give them to you right there in the office, and sometimes they have to have them sent out for diagnosis and analysis. All right, and then moving on down the page, I put a space here for the diagnosis. So let's say you go in with a sore throat and a cough, and the doctor says, well, you have strep throat. You can write that here as the diagnosis. And then I also put down an area here where they can put down what treatment you're going to do and what your therapy instructions might be. So they might prescribe for you an antibiotic, which you have to take, twice a day for the next 14 days and drink plenty of fluids, that kind of thing. So a place for you to write all that stuff down. And then any medications that they may want to prescribe to you, what the dose and instructions for those medications would be. Also, that would be a good place for you to put the antibiotics, cough syrup, anything like that. Okay? All right, so that takes care of this whole side. Let's move to the other side. The other side is pretty straightforward. I really wanted to leave a place for notes. So again, I put the date and the name of the person here, and then I left a space here for what the next appointment might be. So the doctor may say, I want to check back on you in 2 weeks or 6 months or something like that. So you can go ahead and schedule that appointment when you're in the office. Is often much easier than trying to do it, as the time approaches that you need to get that appointment. So go ahead and schedule that appointment, write it down. And then you also have a place here where you can just write any notes. So this whole rest of this page is blank for note taking. Okay. All right. Now let me zoom back out so you can see the whole page. I know in my family, we try to always have somebody go to the doctor's office with the other person. And oftentimes that person who is not seeing the doctor will actually be the note taker. I know I did that when my daughter was young, and I also did that when my husband had his medical conditions. I would go and take notes on what was being said. Not that I didn't, trust them to tell me what was going on, But sometimes it's always better to have, two pair of ears listening because, again, if you're a little nervous in the doctor's office, it's kind of nice to have this information written down. Also, think about this. If you are the caregiver for someone like a child or an older adult, and you have multiple people that might be helping with that, it's always nice to have a record of what happened at the doctor's appointment, and what follow up needs to be done and that kind of thing. So, when I started laying out this page, I just thought to myself, what is the natural process that I go through when going to a doctor's appointment, and what information would I like to collect about that appointment? And I created this page to function this way for myself. Now, if you would like to use this information or this idea, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Create your own page for your own specific needs. I think it would be a really great way to keep track of that medical information. And also, this is going to be a page that I eventually end up putting in my medical notebook that I'm going to be creating here. But I also have other pages that I'm going to be building to put into this medical notebook. So if you would like to see the creation of those pages, please go ahead and think about subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. And if you have any recommendations for things that might work well in a medical notebook, please leave me a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. As I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm also thinking, well, this would be a good thing to have for a pet as well. Because we all have pets that we care about. I might have to start a pet notebook as well. Anyway, my mind just keeps going and going and going. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for some of you out there, and I really do think that taking care of our health and tracking that information is very important, and I'm glad that you stopped by to check out my medical appointment page. Well, here's hoping that you can live a more simplified and organized life through better planning. I use OneNote. All right, guys, take care of yourself. Until next time. Okay, bye.